Welcome to On the Move with Margaret. And this is just a fabulous chat show that I have with lots of women. And as women, we love to chat. And this is one way of chatting. And it keeps me in touch with all my friends all over the world. This goes absolutely international. And today I'm so blessed to have my friend Nikki Bush talking to us. And I love Nikki. And we were just talking about the old days when I used to have my wow dinners and we sit around the table and have a chat. And I said to you, you will not believe tonight I'm having a wow dinner here in the States where I've got 10 wonderful, amazing women, from a pilot to an executive air hostess I've got realtors here. I've got so many fabulous women coming, and I just can't wait. And I just love these chats. And most of you will know Nikki Bush. If you don't, well, I don't know where you've been, but she is a fantastic speaker. And what I love most about Nikki is long ago when she first started speaking, and a big director of a massive company tried to get her to give a discount, and she just said, "No, I know my worth, and this is what I'm worth. And if you want me, this is what you need to pay me. And if you don't, that's also okay." Now you've got to have a balls to say that, I want to tell you, because we all love the speaking gigs, especially the paid speaking gigs. And Nikki, that was the thing I remember most about you, and with all the things that you've been through in your life. I remember that, and I remember just standing in your power and just being strong. So to all the other women out there, first of all, welcome to the show, and tell us how you still stand in your power today.
So Margaret, I must say, going back to your Women of Worth dinners, and being around you and around women who were standing their ground and not trying to be a man in a woman in a man's world, or a masculine woman, but literally holding on to your femininity and holding on to your worth is different to trying to be kind of like a man. And I really learned a lot from sitting around the table with you. And so I always credit you with being an inspiration on my journey of, holding on to my worth. And I think that as women, it's great to have mentors along the way. And I think we must give away this formalized idea of mentorship.
Yeah.
Because I think women who are in the corporate space go into these relationships with formalized mentors. But I have had the best inspiration and support from informal mentorship, from observing other successful women and from listening to their stories. So, I've held on to those lessons, and they really have stood me in great stead. And business is growing year on year, which is fantastic. But I think what's most important is the impact that we have.
Yeah.
So it's one thing to work hard. It's another thing to work hard, but actually have impact. And is your impact and your footprint growing? And that for me has always been the measure of my success is, am I adding value? That's the question I ask every day is, if I'm adding value, if the answer is yes, I keep doing more of what I'm doing. If I'm not adding value, change the game. And the market will always tell you whether you're adding value or not. What is the market prepared to pay you for? And then, of course, you set your price. And you set your price based on what do you believe you're truly worth. And for women, that is definitely a journey of discovery.
We grew up in a patriarchal society where the man was the boss, and nothing could be further from the truth in the real life. We've all discovered that the hard way.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we've grown up with that conditioning that we're on the sidelines. We're not the lead role in our own lives. And post my husband's death, I think, even though I was always a very empowered woman before his death, I've become a more empowered woman post his death. And not in a masculine way, just a sense of clarity about what I bring to the table, what I bring to the world, how I can impact the world, and that it is worth more than I ever thought it was. And that's been a real lesson. And I think from my point of view, and maybe here's a lesson for our viewers and our listeners, is that I'm a speaker and an author, but that's how I express who I am. It's not who I am, it's what I do. I think too many people, both men and women, identify with their job description, with their role versus their
I'm an accountant, I'm a doctor, this is me.
Exactly. But if you discover what your essence is, and my essence is that I'm a sense maker, I help people make sense of complicated situations, complicated information, complicated concepts. That's what gets me up in the morning. That's who I am. And we can find many avenues of self-expression for
Yeah.
who we are. It doesn't have to just be the job. So through multiple roles in our lives, we can express who we are. And maybe there are different facets of ourselves that we express. And
Yes.
I always think of you, Margaret, and I think of the fact that you've been in retail for so long, and now you've gone into being an estate agent, and you've studied it later in life. You know, all of these things are all avenues of self-expression. And so I think we need
Yeah.
to separate ourselves out from our role or our job description. But going back to what I was saying, because we're business women, we're business people, and that was a critical moment in my worth conversation, was in separating out the speaker and author from the businesswoman.
Yes.
And when I started seeing myself as a businesswoman, not a speaker and author, that is when I started really charging what I should have been charging for a hell of a long time. Because what do businesses do? We make a profit.
Yes, and it's not a sin to make a profit. That's what we're here for. And a lot of people don't want to tell you, oh, don't tell you, oh, I won't tell you I'm making a profit. But that's what we're here for, and that's what it's all about.
Exactly. And I heard somebody say the other day, sometimes we behave as if our business is a dirty little secret.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
keep quiet about it. I can't say that I've kept quiet about my business, but it was such an interesting comment. Because if you don't believe in yourself or believe in what you're charging, that you are bringing real value to the table and this is what it's worth, because it's worth more than the hour.
Yeah.
People charge by the hour, but I guess, I'm at that stage in my life now where I'm going, it's a lifetime's worth of experience and learning that I bring to the table, which is worth more than the hour.
Yeah, absolutely. I always tell my staff that I pay them twice. I pay them once with the money they get in their pocket, but what I pay them, which is going to be more valuable to them, is what I teach them in their daily life and how to run their lives. And it's just so rewarding now that we've got a massive HR team that replaced me. I was HR for 35 years at Hershey's myself. Now we've got a team of 8 people who do it, and they go and they listen to the stories that people tell. And I always say, if I'd impacted one life, it would be fantastic. But I'm just so happy that I managed to impact so many lives. And that's what it's all about. I always say, if you can just help one person to improve their life, and that's what you do, you go around helping people to improve their lives, which I think is a fantastic profession to be in, because if you can help other people, and I always say, when you grow other people, they automatically push you up. So you grow exponentially as well by helping them.
100%. But just to go back to what you said, that you pay them twice. This is another lesson that is so important for everybody, men and women. And it's something we've got so wrong over the years. And we've made money complicated. Money's been masked behind mystery. And actually, creating wealth is not that difficult. And this really is something that I spend a lot of time talking about. And I'm not a financial advisor, so this is not financial advice at all. But it is a principle. We need to get better outcome from our income.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Whether you are a shop assistant, or whether you're an accountant or a doctor or a professor or a CEO, whatever it is, you earn first. Your first stream of income is your salary or what you charge your clients.
Yeah.
And that is in exchange for your time, your skills, and your knowledge. And you need to take some of that income and put it to work for you. So while you are working for more money, it is sweating for you in investments.
Yeah.
Now, that means investing in assets that are going to grow over time. And this is what's critical. Most women keep 70% of their money, or 70% of women keep their money in cash. Let that sink in. When probably 70% of men keep their money in assets that grow over time. So that's a fundamental difference in terms of keeping money in the market over time and stocks and shares and exchange traded funds and other assets, whether it's property, whatever. And this is not financial advice. We need to make our money grow. That's called wealth. What we earn as a salary is not our wealth. And so once again, there's this just general understanding of concepts. So we need to have a minimum of 2 streams of income, one we work for and one that goes to work for us. And the more money we have working for us, the more streams of income we can have there as well. And when you understand that, then you've got to have the discipline of the debit order. And that means that you need to have money going out of your account every single month into those growing assets. And it's the discipline of the debit order, not if I have money left over at the end of the month, I will put it into an investment, which is the mistake I made for the first 50 years of my life. Children, all the money goes to the children, and there's nothing left over at the end of every month.
Yeah.
But even if it's a small amount, when you're first working, if it's 500 Rand a month, and it's the discipline of 500 Rand every month goes out because you are worthy of investing in your future to give you the power of choice. And most women do not have the power of choice when they need it most.
Yes.
And so I think that is actually our best form of wealth, is setting ourselves up to be able to make the choices we want or need to make when we want or need to make them.
Yeah.
That means having enough invested to give you the option to get out of a gender-based violence relationship, to get out of a toxic boss relationship, to start your own business, to get divorced, to whatever it is that you want or need to do.
Yeah.
Most women are stuck where they are because they have no choice, because they have no financial plan.
All of our staff, I encourage them to have 2 streams of income at work as well. And I say to them, there's 24 hours in a day. 8 hours you're at work. What are you doing with the other 16? You know, you've got to use them well. And the girls that I've worked with who sell Apple Lane, they sell Tupperware, they sell, you know, they have that type of thing. Others are a waitress at night. And I tell them, I started my whole property portfolio saving 100 Rand a month. That's when I started way back when, and it was many moons ago. Saved 100 Rand a month. I had the deposit on a house that I didn't want to live in. I put it 10 and 10, and that's how I built up my whole asset portfolio. But you have to start somewhere, and I think it's just starting, taking that first step. I'm going to put this 100 Rand away every month, or the 500 Rand as it is today, every month. And from there, I've now got a 1 billion Rand property portfolio. So girls, you have to start somewhere, and there's no better time than to start than today. If you haven't already started, like when should you have planted that tree? You should have planted it 20 years ago, but if you didn't, today is the day you've got to do it. And that's what I want everybody to understand. But Nikki, going out, you're a speaker and you speak to people right across the board and mostly corporates. What message do you tell them? Because, I mean, most of them have got money. They don't handle it that well. I just was so amazed to see one of my staff salesman's salary is the same as my friend who's a specialist doctor. And I just thought, oh, my gosh. And I said to him, you can't stay as a specialist doctor. You have to have your own practice because you're earning a salary. You know, it makes you a living. But when you work for yourself, you can make a fortune. And that's what I tell everybody. You've got to work for yourself and make that fortune. So what do you tell them when you speak to, and you've got to speak to a broad audience, you know, there's rich people, poor people, the bosses are there, the workers are there. How do you sort of structure that message?
It doesn't matter where you are, as you said, you know, today is the day to start, whether it's big or small. It's all about habits. It's all about creating and building a life where you have a little bit of peace of mind. Yeah. Because peace of mind is priceless. And peace of mind comes with setting up the right foundations. And I think we just you know, we live in a very, very consumeristic society where we must have in order to be seen to be doing well. Yes. And you must, you know, put your children in the best schools and drive the fanciest car and wear the branded clothing and drink the right coffee and, you know, have the false eyelashes and, you know, all this stuff, which costs a lot of money. But if you can't afford to retire, what the hell is going on here, you know? Yeah. So I talk to many audiences around reframing disruption. So I've got some key areas of speciality under the human potential umbrella. The one is reframing or dancing with disruption, which is change of any kind by choice, by chance, or by crisis, and all the little transitions in life. And if you think about it, Margaret, all the transitions, and there are at least 60 or more that we go through that concern money and our maturity. So, and it's all about as we age. So as you leave school and you go and study and you get your first job, then maybe you purchase your first car. That's about having money and making choices. So choice, we have the power to choose. I speak a lot about self-leadership and our power to choose, that we hold the cards. When we point a finger out there and we go, it's your fault, or the world's in a bad place, or, there's this war going on and it's causing, price hikes and whatever. There are three fingers pointing back at us. Our power does not lie in this finger. Our power lies in these three fingers, because they're pointing back at us. If we're feeling stuck somewhere, pointing your finger out there is not going to solve the problem most of the time. It's what can we do in here? What can we do practically? What can we do, emotionally? And it all boils down to choice. We can choose for something to bury us as a full stop in our lives, whatever's going on. Or we can choose for it to be on our way, not in our way, and we turn the full stop into a comma and ... And this applies to everybody across all strata of society, people with qualifications, no qualifications. You can look at some people who come out of the same family, say 3 brothers, and one becomes a superstar because he's a man of faith and he's disciplined and he puts his head down and he's conscientious. And out of the same family, you have the other 2 brothers who become drug addicts. How does that happen? A lot of it is the power of choice. There's a moment in time where you get to choose the trajectory of your life. So that the change piece is very big in my work. I'm called in to speak in companies where there's a Section 189, like Anglo last year, when they were hiving off pieces of the business, and when there's a merger or an acquisition taking place, because I understand what disruption and change feels like on the human level. I can articulate the tough stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
And then every single financial institution in this country is going through restructuring at the moment. So, I get called in to talk to staff about how it feels, acknowledging that it feels pretty cuck, actually.
Yeah.
And that how you feel is actually valid. But are you going to choose to be buried by this, or are you going to choose to see the opportunity in this? Then I also work with teams. I work with leaders. I do human-centric, high-touch leadership. I squeeze happy juice into teams, so the whole team dynamic thing. I do a lot in the women's empowerment space, so thank you for that inspiration there, Margaret. And also parenting is still an absolute passion of mine. So parenting and education still are in the wheelhouse, and I do a lot around work-life integration. So my jackets talk, which jacket are you wearing now, is an incredibly popular and important talk, because that's really about the lessons from all the jackets that we wear in our lives, the seasons, the reasons, the brand we've built, the stories that, and I think this is important, it's our stories that differentiate us.
Absolutely.
It's not the sameness that you've got the same qualification, that you've got the same experience. Nobody has the same experience. It's the stories that color your CV, your personal, individual stories, from anything from work to personal adventures you've had to being a wife or a mum. All those things come together to make us absolutely unique. And I think we undervalue our stories. And I think that's why your work has been powerful, is because it's all based on personal story. It's not out of anybody's textbook. And I think that's where you and I overlap, is that we both teach from that place.
You've got to be so authentic. You know, in the old days you could bluff a bit, you could put up a facade and you could hide behind that facade. But today you can't, because with social media and everybody knowing everything about you, you've got to be your authentic self all the time. You can't, you know, be one person 1 minute, one person the next. But having said that, I love it that I have been able to transition from the housewife to the small business owner to a woman who could take on women empowerment. Then when Eleanor retired when we were 50, we retired for about 2 days and we got bored. Then we went to Joburg and we took on Joburg. And then now, all these years later, I've come to America and I'm taking on America. I think it's important that you do know that you're able to change. You don't have to stick in the same thing. Like, you know, my stepfather worked at the post office for 54 years and he just went every day from when he was a young man till he died. He went and did the same thing every single day for 54 years. And I said, I could never do that. I've got to transition. And people say to me, why did you come to America? I said, because I needed a change. I wanted some adventure in my life. And I think, you know, just to have some adventure in your life is so important, because you can just do that humdrum stuff every day. But today people want more, and that's what more is all about.
What we need to understand about the human brain is that it is built first for survival. It is built for learning second, actually. And if you think about it like that, we will always tick the boxes of survival first. And what's interesting about being human is that we thrive on routine and predictability from a safety point of view. We need just the right amount of predictability and safety to keep us sane. But our growth lies in the novelty. Our growth lies when we step into change. Our growth lies in the transitions, in the adventures, in stuff that's not the norm. And so we need this balance between the routine and the predictability and the safety and the security and the newness and the novelty, because that's how we keep this plastic and elastic and constantly growing and changing and keeping young, actually.
Yes.
Constantly give yourself new challenges. And I have to say, you don't do these things by halves, Margaret. So, you know, you take great leaps of faith on yourself. And I know you've always spoken about having a clothing shop. You even helped out a friend, if I recall, in her dress shop in America as well.
Yeah.
So I think it is about, you know, keeping all of those different parts of yourself alive and not going numb. And I think that many people do go numb because they're just surviving.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are very averse to change, to the discomfort of change. But you're only really learning when you're uncomfortable.
Yeah. But you specialize in helping people through disruption and through all these difficult challenges in their lives. What are the key things that you say to them when they're facing a disruption, a challenge, that work changed or their husband's run off or whatever? What are the steps that they've got to take to get themselves back on track?
That's an interesting one. Well, firstly, there's the 7 stages of adjustment to any kind of change. And I think that when I go through them, everybody will find themselves in the 7 stages. When something happens, whether it's by chance, by choice, or by crisis, you literally freeze. So the first thing is you become immobile, and that's normal to go, ah!
Yeah.
And then you go into minimizing the threat, because the brain is there for self-preservation. First and foremost, it will compare the threat of change with something else that has happened in your life before. And if it can't find something there, it will find something in someone else's life that you know. You know, the brain is like AI.
Yeah. It is.
And doing these comparisons and finding the patterns. And it will throw something up that will tell you that you're going to be able to cope, or that you've been through something before that was maybe worse and you survived. And so it tells us a story. It gives us stories. So we minimize the threat. Then we go into depression, which is a withdrawal cycle, because we are feeling uncomfortable, because change puts us in a space where we've never been before. And we feel incompetent and unconfident because this is not a well-worn pathway when you do something new. And so you've got to keep going to grease the groove, as my personal trainer says, to grease the groove. And it's the same with the brain. The neurological pathways need greasing with myelin, and it only happens after 200 to 300 repetitions of something that myelin starts being laid down and things get easier. So no wonder you feel a little bit down or depressed. It's normal. You don't want to get stuck there, though. So you have to acknowledge all the feelings that you're going through. Do not shove them under the rug. It is so important that we work with the data that our emotions are giving us. It is just data. What we do with it is up to us. So we then move from that place into acceptance of where we find ourselves. And I'm sure even you moving to the States, and I know you've read my book, Future Proof Yourself, a number of times.
Yes.
Even when you move to the States for all the right reasons to have your adventure, the first few weeks you might have gone, geez, have we made the right decision? Because this is actually a little bit uncomfortable. Exciting, yes, but terrifying at the same time. Because, you know, it's like really taking a risk on yourself to do something new. Then once you've accepted your new reality, that there's no way to go back, you must only go forwards. That's a good place to be. Then you start testing your new reality and you find out what works, what doesn't work. And then you do more of what works and less of what doesn't work. And then you search for meaning, and then you internalize this new reality. So those are the 7 stages, and you don't go through them necessarily in a linear way. You can keep looping back when you're triggered by something. Now, that leads me to the second point when you say, what do I tell people when they're going through stuff? Is we need to understand our triggers. And our triggers are very old. So we all had a childhood. And my coaching experience here, I do a lot of strategic leadership coaching with top tier executives and business founders. And this is on the back of my own personal development work that I've been doing for years and years and years, since I was about 23 years old. And everybody is carrying wounds, either little traumas or big traumas. And these stem back to your childhood. And you could even have a perfect childhood in your own mind. But I promise you, and I've said this for 30 years, every parent will wound their children in some way, shape, or form without knowing it. You're doing the best you can with what you know. And actually, when your children at 35 come and say, you know, you did this thing or said this, do you know it shaped the way I blah, blah, blah? You go, that.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's not child abuse. Sometimes it's not, adoption or, things like that. It can sometimes be quite what we would consider surface level stuff. But our perceptions of who we are shaped at a very young age. Yeah. And what I specialize in is helping people to spot the patterns that have created scripts that are running your life with or without your permission. Yeah. And often it's without your permission. You don't even realize that script is running your life, your decisions, your choices, your relationships, etc. So when something happens in your adult life and it really has there's a big explosion inside you, it's a strong trigger. It's not the current issue that is the strongest trigger. It's just triggering a very old pattern.
The back of your head.
And once you can connect the dots between these things, you can start diffusing their impact on you, and you can start asking a different question. Because when things happen to us, the first question is, why is it happening to me? Why me? What have I done? And instead, we need to change that question to, what is this asking of me? Yeah. Because when you ask that question, you're actually stepping into growth. And you're going, what can I learn from this? And how can I grow from this? And how can I do things differently because of this? Because if you keep doing the same old thing over and over again, you're going to get the same result. And what I'm really starting to uncover is this huge pattern, even in highly successful people, because those are the people I'm dealing with, is that we use the and this is unknowingly, this is subconscious, okay? We use the fuel of fear or anger or whatever it is that was sparked in our childhood. Yeah. We use that as fuel for our success. And you hear people say, I'm not going to let that happen to my family. My children are going to have a better upbringing than me. I'm not going to go through what my dad went through or whatever. So we all want to do better if we
Yeah.
think there was something that was
Yeah.
lacking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we use this, the wound, the energy of the wound, to help us strive for a better life. And incredibly successful people get to a point around 45, 50 where, and that's when they land up in my coaching chair and they're going, can this be another way? Because I don't know if I can do this for another 20 years. They're not
Yeah.
saying, I can't do this job. They're saying there's something about how I operate in the world that is exhausting me. And these are highly, highly successful people. And then in the delayering work that I do, we eventually uncover that the driver has been anger or fear or whatever. And we celebrate because this thing has served you, it protected you, it guided you, all those, possibly even saved your life. But it's not sustainable into the future. And then we flip into being curious about what we don't know.
Yeah.
And then curiosity becomes the fuel. Now, I see you stepping into going to America to do what you're doing as fueled by curiosity
Yeah.
about something that you
Absolutely.
had an inkling about, but didn't really know how to do it, but you were prepared to take a risk and trust yourself,
Yeah.
which, let me tell you, most people are not prepared to do. Okay, that would be most people. But it's so interesting that the same thing that protected, served you, but also ultimately was a wound, has actually prepared you for where you are right now to have the
Yeah.
biggest possible impact in the world right now, because you possibly couldn't be set up to impact the world right now had you not been through what you went through. So if we can get to a place where we can own our story,
Yeah.
but not let it continue to define us into the future, it
Yeah.
served its purpose, and so that's a lot of the work that I do these days. And I think that companies actually also have to look at that story for themselves, not the people's story, but where the company has come
The
from.
company story. Yeah. I read something so good the other day. It says, you talk to yourself in the voice that your parents spoke to you when you were under 5 years old. And it's so true. And I thought about it, and I could actually hear my mother speaking as I was thinking, my mother speaking to me and what she was saying. And that is the voice that I talk to myself with. And thank goodness she always did boost me up. And she told me she would, if I was doing something wrong, she would sure let me know. And, when you self-criticize, I can hear my mother talking to me with that same voice. And I think a lot of people don't realize that the voice you're talking to yourself with is not the best voice that you could have chosen, because my mother was quite a domineering person, and she was, this is what you will do. And so, and that's how I talk to myself. So that's absolutely life changing. When you think about it, it just was boing, like a light bulb going off. But you work with people right across the board now. What are the biggest lessons that you have learned working with these people? Because they, at the end of the day, teach you about yourself as well.
100%. And I think that's what's so interesting about my work is every day I can come home and write a journal entry about the mirrors that people have held up for me as they have asked, me to step into a space and, advise and consult and speak and inspire and all of those things. There are always lessons for us to learn. And I think the bottom line is that we have never arrived.
Yes.
And we are all still figuring it out. And the more I work with highly successful people, the more I realize they're just figuring it out.
Yeah.
Nobody actually has got,
All
a
the
hard and
answers.
fast recipe. And we may have some principles, and I'm sure you have some of those principles. I have some of those principles that have made us successful that we stick to, but we still adapt as we go along. We still have to be testing that reality all the time to see if those principles are still valid, if they still work for us. And I think that in some way gives us some solace.
Yes.
I think that we think if we're a smart person, we should have it figured out. And that's a lot of pressure. Whereas if you're more curious about the journey, going, Well, you've never fully figured it out. You're doing it on, you're literally making the path by walking on it. And that takes courage. That takes courage to make your own path. And you're doing it, one step at a time. And, you're creating the recipe as you go. There are some things in life where there are recipes, and there are some things in life where they're just
No
not.
recipe.
But
Yeah.
I think the one thing you and I agree on is that effort in a focused direction is likely to bring a result and likely to bring satisfaction. I think people are not really connecting satisfaction and effort anymore, particularly young people, that you actually
Yes.
got to invest effort. This thing doesn't just come
I think the fairies
at.
come out and put it out at
Yeah.
night.
I strongly believe this, that even if you tackle something you're not good at, if you spend enough time focusing on it, even if you have to get some help, you can make it
You will
work.
get good
You
at
can
it.
become good
Yeah.
at it.
Yeah, you will. Now, you talk about speak human, and I call it common sense, because common sense isn't very common these days.
I think in the context in which I use it, it's beyond common sense. So my payoff line in the work I do with businesses, which is the speaking work and business performance consulting, and then the strategic leadership coaching piece, that is underpinned by my framework, my blueprint. So my blueprint for my business is called the Ignite Bottom Line Blueprint. And that came about when I made the switch between being a speaker and an author and being a business owner, because now I needed to run my business as a business. and it needed a blueprint, it needed a strategy. And the strategy really is when I sit in front of a CEO, the CEO doesn't want to know the nice, soft, fluffy stuff I'm going to do with the people. The CEO, he or she, would like to know how I'm going to shift the bottom line. So my opening conversation is about how can I help you shift your bottom line, ignite your bottom line. If you can tell me that, I can tell you what I can do to help you do that.
Yes.
So the kind of conversations I have these days are very different to the conversations I was having 10 or 15 years ago, because I'm actually talking business.
Yes.
And then I'm going to tell you that as a leader in a very fast changing world today, you are wanting to get a greater contribution from your people to shift the bottom line in the right direction, especially when it counts the most. You might want more of their discretionary time, energy, and attention. They are not going to give that to you unless they believe in the cause or they're loyal to you.
Yeah.
And you need to lead them and help them navigate through a fast changing world that is changing at speed. But you want to take them on a journey of doing this by choice, not because they have to, because it's very different when you are voluntold to do something versus you volunteer. So we need greater contribution from our people. We want to take them on a journey through change by choice. And then we want them to bring their best curiosity thinking to the table. That means giving your people permission to be curious, to be innovative, to think outside the box. And there's a lot of lip service that's paid to that piece. Yes, we know we have to innovate, and that you come up with all these amazing ideas, and then they're all blocked at the end of the day because we're a big organization, and actually, we can bully ourselves through, and actually, change is too tough to consider. I see this all the time. So my 3 C's that underpin my framework are contribution, choice, and curiosity. And that's the journey I will take a leader through. That is a journey I will take a team through or a business through. And actually at the heart of all of that is self-leadership.
Yeah.
Whether you are the boss or whether you are in a team, an employee, and I know this will resonate for you because this is all your teaching that you do with your staff, is actually, it's all about you and how you show up in the world and the choices you make and the work you're prepared to do on yourself, how you invest in yourself. And so self-leadership actually drives leadership. Self-leadership drives your success. At the end of the day, people can help you as much as they like, But if you don't put in the work, the effort, the commitment, if you don't buy into it, it's not going to amount to, it's not going to take you where you want it to take.
Absolutely. Now, I always say, people say, what business are you in? I always say I'm in the people business, because I'm in the people business with my suppliers, with my staff, and with my customers. I deal with people all day, every day. So, but they call you the talent whisperer. And as every business owner, we just want to have that fabulous talent. You know, as a teacher, I have 2,500 people reporting to me, and I just want them to have, that feeling. And how do I, first of all, choose the right person and look at their talent? And how do I then continue to train them to be the way I would like them to be? Because I give them, the results that I want. Sometimes I get, sometimes I don't.
Well, part of the Speak Human philosophy is that I help leaders to ditch complex management theory and speak human, as in connect with a human being. If you want to motivate everybody the same way, you can't do that anymore. We live in a world of customized everything, customized products. I mean, I always think of your very expensive Smeg kettle that goes for some the designer, we live in a world of customized everything. Just look at your cell phone. Your cell phone screen is customized for you, by you. Yeah. We want customized meals. We want customized clothes. We want, that is the world we live in. So why not customize leadership? Leadership, we don't lead people one size fits all. I need to know, out of my 7 direct reports, I need to know their top 5. What is important to them? And I lead them by knowing them. So know me, focus me, and care for me is the new employee mantra. And when we say know me, it's things like, do you know that this employee's mum just had a hip replacement? And next time you bump into them, 6 weeks later, do you remember to ask, how's your mum doing? Do you know right now we have the Soccer World Cup? Do you know who the soccer fans are? And do you know which teams they support? Do you know who the rugby fans are and which is their team? So that after a rugby match on the weekend, when you see them or speak to them online or in person, you can say, so what did you think of the result? Do you know how much that means to people, that they know that you know what's important to them? That for this employee, they're busy paying off a bond on their first house because they've got married and had a child. That's where their time, their energy, their attention, and their money is going there. Whereas somebody whose children are leaving the nest, they've got different priorities, different values. What's important to them is different. Somebody might be buying their first car. That's where the salary's going. That's why you as the boss are important, because they're getting something that they so desire. So we need to know what motivates our people and motivate them, in a customized way by knowing who they are, not just what they do. Yeah. And so that's a lot of the leadership work I do is around reinventing your one-on-ones with your direct reports, creating team huddles, team cuddles, finding different ways to engage with your people so that you can travel closer to them, so that you know them better, so that you can customize your leadership, so that you can help them be their best, so that you can get more of their discretionary time, energy, and attention and ideas, so that your business does better. And so at the end of the day, Margaret, we're actually all playing the attention game. The attention game is the biggest game in town. If you're not playing it, you will not keep your top people. And absolutely. Connecting. Relationship. Drip feeding inspiration and making sure they know that you know who they are and what's important to them.
Now, so, we have a lot of people working for us, and they do have to navigate disruption in their lives. We just had a team member who lost his wife and got left with 4 children. And, he's going through such a lot, and you don't know how, as a leader, how much sympathy you must give him. I always say, God gave you your path and you've got to walk your own path. I can't do it for you. I can help you. I can guide you, but I can't do it for you. But he really needs a lot of attention now. Now, how much attention as a leader should you give to one person? Because now all the others are saying, but what about about me. I also had this happen and this happened. So as a leader, it's actually quite difficult to navigate the staff and see who is doing what in the team and who needs the attention. How do you work that out, do you think?
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a little bit like, when a family of with a mum, a dad, and a child have a second child, and the new baby arrives, and suddenly there's all this attention on the new baby, and the first child regresses.
I never forget my son's got two little boys, and he brought the second one home, and then the first one came to him after about 2 days and said, "When's Harrison's parents coming to fetch him? Because I've had enough of him now." And they said, "No, we are Harrison's parents." "No, you can't be, because you're my parents." And I never forget that conversation. It was so cute.
Oh, that is such a cute conversation, but it speaks to the point that, when your attention is going too much on one person, the rest of the team can feel sidelined. It's like having a very
Yeah.
gifted child or a special
Yes.
needs child, same sort of
Yes.
thing. And if you understand the attention game, what's going to happen if you spend too much time with one employee or on one employee is that everybody else will start playing up and
Yes.
start resorting to negative attention-seeking behavior. But I think my input here is quite simple. You mentioned that you've got your own path to walk. You do need to support people walking their path, but you cannot walk the path for them.
Absolutely.
And what's important, and what I've witnessed in my own life and through the downs in my life, particularly when my husband was murdered, is that we mustn't rescue people.
Yeah.
When you try and rescue people, you often minimize them. And then they become, there's this learned helplessness, which also happens with children when you do too much for them. There is learned helplessness. You cannot take away the circumstances necessarily from somebody's life. This has happened. Somebody's died. You can't reverse that. So people have to learn to harness the wind and the tide, which those are the circumstances that we don't choose, but it's what we've been dealt. We've got to learn how to harness the wind and the tide. Of course, we can practically help people with meals for a few weeks or months or groceries or things like that. But we do need to ensure that whatever we do is helping them build their resilience muscle. And so sitting with someone saying, what is one thing I could do to help you? Or what does support look like for you right now? And being able to deliver on some of those things, but you can't take on their life and you can't take on their stuff. All you can do is, when you throw out a life raft, somebody must participate in their own rescue.
Yeah.
You know how many people don't. You're throwing and you're throwing and nothing's happening. And then you're going, oh, poor me.
Yeah.
When people participate in their own rescue, it's so easy to help them more.
Yeah.
Because they're actually doing something with the help. But there is only so much one can do as an employer. You can't take the whole thing on.
You can't take the world on.
You can't. And actually your role as a leader is to help them make the next choice they can under any circumstances. So maybe what they need is to be able to come and talk.
Yeah.
And knowing that you can't save them, can I help you in your decision making? Can I be a sounding board for you to help you make, and we can't make those decisions, but sometimes people need to hear their own voice because they've usually got their own answer.
Yeah.
And if you can just verbalize it to one person or enough people, they can go and act on it.
Yeah, I think women need to talk. I always say we need to chew the cud. I never ever tell my husband if I have a problem because he'll say, well, do this or do that, and that's finished. No, I want to go on, and I want to chew the cud and go on until I eventually work it out in my own head. And I think as women, that's what we have to do. Now, we've got a lot of women watching this who are out there saying, well, it's all very well for these two because they're strong and they're tough and they've been through it all and now they've come out the other side. What about me? I'm just sitting here with all these problems. And how do you sort of get them back on track to know that they have their own strength, they can stand in their own strength, and they can do anything if they put their mind to it?
So I think we need to understand that we need enough pressure and tension in our lives to perform. And I know you've just given some examples, but I'll tell you the most common example right now of what I'm seeing of people giving up their agency and their power is looking at everything and saying, that's a mental health issue.
Yes.
That's a mental health
That's such an excuse for anybody who doesn't feel like even coming to work. I'm having a mental health day. Where did that come from? We went through our whole lives without ever having a mental health day. You got over it and got on with it.
Yeah, so I'll tell you where it comes from. It comes from COVID, which brought on an extreme awareness of mental health and wellness and well-being and stress and change and disruption. And what happens in being human on Earth is that the pendulum seems to swing extremely from one side to another. And it went from HR calling the shots and the HR playbook being written for profit to now the HR playbook is being written for well-being and mental health, which are two complete extremes. Yeah. And we have to find our way back to the middle. And I actually put something up on social media last week around this. I'm hearing, because I deal with corporates all the time, so much of this is going on where people are refusing to do work or not taking on projects because they're just going, sorry, this is a mental health issue. We have to distinguish between normal healthy stress and a mental health issue. But people are calling normal stress a mental health issue. Now, there are two kinds of stress. There's distress, which can lead to burnout and anxiety and all those things. And then there's eustress. Yes. And eustress is about harnessing stress and pressure and tension and pressure, not stress, tension and pressure in order to create the ideal environment for performance. Yeah. And I always say, and I know you do the elastic band around your wrist, and if you have a negative thought, you do you click yourself. Okay. So there's another use for an elastic band. If I gave you a nice soft elastic band to play with right now, you wouldn't leave it alone. And you wouldn't be doing this with it. You'd be wrapping it around your fingers. You'd be making tension. Yeah. Life is not really interesting and fun without a modicum of pressure and tension. And so we would play with that elastic band until there was enough pressure and tension for there to be resistance. Yeah. There has to be resistance for there to be growth and learning. And that is not a mental health issue. That is life. Okay.
Normal growth.
That is normal growth, and we need enough of it. If we don't have enough of it, then we have popped elastic band syndrome, and we fall apart. So we have the same thing happening when there's too much stress as when there's not enough stress. There's no performance, or there's low performance. So just remember that as one thing. And then the other thing is, and I'll give you a story here. I sat with my nephew in his early 20s looking over the Knysna Lagoon one December holiday. And it was a beautiful day. Blue sky, beautiful, calm, everything. And he was telling me that his life wasn't working for him.
Gosh.
Okay. And he had all sorts of reasons why. And then as we were looking at the lagoon, the weather changed. And it went cloudy and the wind came up and all the people on the beach left. But who came out to play? The kite surfers, the people in yachts, etc., on windsurfers, because they've worked out how to harness the wind and the tide. We do not create the wind and the tide. It is created for us. We have to learn how to navigate it, how to harness it, and life will throw you many curveballs. There is not a person in any room I'm in whose life has unfolded in a straight line.
Yeah.
So you have to look at what's happening in your life and you have to go, okay, so this is the wind and the tide. How am I going to learn how to harness the wind and the tide in my favor?
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, is we have been brought up, not just up in a patriarchal society, but with a win-lose mindset. That if I'm losing, someone else is winning. If I'm winning, someone else is losing. Why can't we have a win-win? And so my philosophy is you can build a life and you can start making decisions about where you will and will not spend your time, your energy, and your attention based on, are both parties winning? And if both parties aren't winning, I won't play this game. So I think it's a mindset, it's a framing. And we need to look at the collateral damage and the collateral beauty in any situation, whether it's a divorce, whether it's a death, dread, disease diagnosis, loss of a job, moving town, moving country, whatever. There will be lots of collateral damage.
Yeah.
But to keep perspective, and I think this is the key to answering your question, keeping perspective is finding the collateral beauty that coexists with the collateral damage. We are human beings. We live through the human paradox. We can have two completely conflicting emotions about the same thing at the same time. You know, you may really want to get divorced, but there's a lot of damage in divorce. So, you know, it's serving you on one side, and on another side, it's hell. So I think we need to understand that that is being human.
Yeah.
There's give and take. There's nice things and not such nice things at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, okay, but we do get to reframe where we find ourselves in any situation. And it's that question of, you know, changing it from why is this happening to me to what is this asking of me is such a critical question. The words we use are so important. And to empower yourself to make different choices if you need to is also important. So we all get to design our lives. We all have more control than we actually think, if you think of those three fingers. So what are you doing to empower yourself more, to rewrite and reauthor your script in a way that creates more win-win outcomes?
Wow. Well, Nikki, that was really, really powerful. And Flater and Status 8, but that was amazing. And I think one of the biggest takeaways that I got from it is that while the world continues to change, human beings stay the same, and they need the same things, and they need attention, and you need to give attention firstly to yourself and then to the people around you. People will always matter. And I always say, that's why I say I'm in the people business, because people are so, so important. If you enjoyed this talk, please let me know, and you can like and subscribe, and look forward to a fantastic talk again next week. And Nikki, your parting shot to everybody watching today.
I would say, may your curiosity always be way stronger than your fear.
Okay, fantastic. That was fantastic.
I've got lots of free resources on my website, nikkibush.com. So just hop on there and go and look for free resources that will help you in line with this very conversation. And a lot of it is about where we choose to spend our time, our energy, our money, and our attention. That gives you so many answers. It can be as simple as that. And from there, you can make the changes. And it can be as simple as going, I'm spending 10 hours a month on this, and it's giving me no return.
Absolutely. That scrolling is the worst. It's the worst thing ever. Oh my gosh. If I could just stop everybody scrolling. Maybe you look, they're just scrolling. Maybe you go, people are scrolling and they're looking at other people's lives. What happened to your life? You know? Yeah, thank you so much. I just want to say thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate you, and I'm so happy that you came on.